managing risk is critical for leaders. And those of you in complex project management, engineering or manufacturing industries will recognize the term Fmea, which stands for failure mode effect analysis, which is a complex way of managing risk. But what we've done here is done a simplified version of that tool to be applied in any business at any level that will help you just get on that journey of really getting a hold of managing risk and assessing risk effectively. So how the model works is, the first thing we need to do is ask ourselves some questions. What is the risk that we're concerned about? What's the what if? What's the if this happens? What's your question is really what I'm asking you here that you are using to assess risk. Once you've kind of got your question that you want answering around risk, the key thing then is to look at all the possible failures that can happen within this situation. So all the different risks that can play out, and just list those down. What are they? What big, small, indifferent. Just list as many as you can think of the things that could go wrong, things that could fall over if your question were to play out in the way that you don't want it to play out, obviously in the context of this. So then the core of the Fmea then is around these three areas, which we call SOD, which is severity, occurrence, and detection. So what we now need to do is we now need to, from those risks, start to score against those things what we think the likelihood are of them happening. So against our first risk, if this risk was to happen, how severe would it be to us? Would it completely kill us? Would it be a bit of an inconvenience, but not the end of the world? So on a scale of 1 to 10, how severe would this risk be, this failure be, if it actually happened to us? And then we need to ask ourselves, okay, that's great, but actually, how likely is it even to occur at all? So against that particular failure, likelihood of occurrence, is it very, very likely to occur? Is it's a real slim chance? Is it, well, we're not quite sure. So again, on a scale of 1 to 10, what is that likely occurrence of that failure happening? And then the last thing is really important is to assess how easy is it to detect it happening. So again, on a scale of 1 to 10, if it were to play out, how quickly and easily will we detect it? Because obviously in risk, the quicker we can see and detect something happening, the quicker we can react and do something about it. So if it's really, really hard to detect, it's a 10. If it's really, really easy to detect, it's a 1. So it's kind of the opposite way around on that one. And then what we want to do is times those numbers together. And obviously what we then end up with is what we call an RPM, which is a risk profile number. So what you need to be concerned with is there's never a zero risk with most things. So it's really about, where are the risks of significant number to us, and what we say basically look at anything over 100. So anything with a risk profile number over 100, you need to look at them and say, okay, now we've got these numbers here that in the 200s in the example here, what can we now go away and do to start to bring down that RPN number? And the way to do that is to go back into your severity, occurrence, detection numbers and say, against the severity, can we do anything that would make it less severe if it happened? Against the occurrence, can we do anything that makes it less likely to occur? Against the detection, is there anything we can do to make this easier to spot if it happens? And then by doing that, you can then start to bring down those SOD numbers and then ultimately your RPN number. So that's the Fmea failure mode effect analysis devised for use in business context. Really, really useful. Remember, with risk, we often overestimate some things. There are things that we worry and stress about endlessly that actually when you run them through a model like this, we often find actually, well, I don't know what we were worried about, but there are often other things as well that maybe we don't concern ourselves with enough, where actually the risk is greater than maybe we believe it is. Hence why this model is a really powerful model to get that kind of objectivity into the things that could or couldn't break us. Fmea.